This is the kind of internal message officials pray never reaches the public. This is the kind of resignation that doesn't just end a career. It sets off alarms across Washington. And tonight, reports suggest the people closest to Donald Trump, the ones assigned to protect him with their lives, may be reaching a breaking point. Breaking developments tied to the Department of Homeland Security are fueling intense new questions about what is happening inside the U.S. Secret Service right now. Sources indicate the agency tasked with guarding the president is facing a serious internal conflict, with morale falling, trust cracking, and senior staff reportedly pushing back in ways we almost never see. According to accounts now circulating among major outlets, Tuesday afternoon, January 20th, 2026, at 3:42 p.m. Eastern, the acting director of the United States Secret Service submitted a resignation letter to the Secretary of Homeland Security. Reports name the official as Kimberly Cheadle, described as a longtime agency veteran, and the resignation is said to stem from deep disagreements with the president about orders she believed crossed legal and ethical boundaries. And let's be clear about what that would mean. We're not talking about a normal staffing change. We're talking about the person overseeing presidential protection walking away in the middle of a crisis. We're talking about senior agents reportedly looking for transfers off the president's detail. We're talking about tense conversations inside headquarters about what agents can and cannot legally be asked to do. Sources speaking anonymously to major news organizations describe what they call a collapse in confidence. According to these reports, some agents have been pressured to interfere with state law enforcement carrying out court-approved actions. Some have allegedly been asked to block sheriffs from entering Trump-linked properties. And the biggest issue, according to analysts watching this unfold, is that agents may feel trapped between two duties: protecting the president and honoring the Constitution. The pressure had reportedly been building for weeks, but sources suggest a New York-related asset seizure dispute may have pushed the situation into open confrontation. Secret Service agents are trained to stop threats against a president's life. They are not trained to serve as muscle in a legal battle with a state government. And if these reports are accurate, some inside the agency are refusing to play that role. So how does a president reach a moment where even his protective team seems shaken? Reports suggest this crisis is happening now because Trump has been pushing the Secret Service toward actions career law enforcement officials believe could cross a legal line. Sources indicate he has framed state officials as hostile actors, argued federal protective authority should override state legal steps, and push the agency into a political fight that many agents never signed up for. And here's the uncomfortable question. What happens when the people assigned to shield the president start resisting the president? That is something modern America has never truly had to face. And now, analysts believe we may be watching it develop in real time. To understand what reportedly led to this rupture, you have to look at what sources say Trump asked the Secret Service to do during the last 2 weeks. The flashpoint, according to these accounts, began on Monday, January 12th, when New York's Attorney General's office allegedly informed federal protection officials that state authorities would need access to Trump Tower in order to inventory certain commercial assets tied to a court-ordered receivership process. The Secret Service, as commonly understood, takes control of locations connected to the president's movements. Over time, agencies can turn certain sites into hardened zones, controlling entrances, screening visitors, installing secure communications, and building layered protection. Reports describe Trump Tower not only as a residence, but as a location that has functioned as a backup command space, at least in terms of communications and security planning. Then came the moment state officials planned to enter the building to carry out the order. Sources describe Trump reacting with fury. According to accounts from individuals said to be briefed on the situation, Trump summoned the acting Secret Service director to the Oval Office and demanded that federal agents physically stop New York authorities from entering Trump Tower. The argument, as described in these reports, was that the building should be treated like federal property because the president lives there, that state officials should not have authority to enter, and that protecting the president should also mean protecting the property around him from state seizure. But sources say the acting director pushed back. According to those accounts, she explained the limits. The Secret Service protects the president's body, not the president's business interests. Agents can secure areas where the president is present for safety reasons, citizens, but they cannot stop law enforcement from carrying out lawful court orders in commercial spaces unrelated to immediate security threats. And reports suggest Trump did not accept that. Sources indicate he pressed her to find a way to justify intervention anyway. He allegedly floated national security arguments, saying classified equipment could be compromised. He allegedly suggested declaring the whole building a restricted federal zone, but according to people familiar with the discussions, she refused. Reports claim she told Trump directly that what he was requesting would be illegal, that agents swear an oath to the Constitution, not to one person, and that if he insisted, she would step down. Sources say Trump pulled back for the moment, but they also suggest he did not stop trying. Over the following week, reports indicate Trump began going around the acting director and speaking directly to senior agents on his protective detail. Accounts describe him asking agents privately whether they would personally stand in front of doors and block sheriffs, whether their loyalty was to him or to what he called bureaucratic rules. According to sources, he framed it as a loyalty test, and that, insiders claim, is where the damage deepened. Some agents reportedly documented these conversations and reported them up the chain. Others were disturbed enough, according to sources, that they asked to be reassigned away from the president's detail. By Friday, January 16th, reports suggest the acting director learned Trump was bypassing command structures and confronted him. Leaks describing that confrontation say it was explosive. Sources indicate the acting director warned Trump he was tearing down the agency's integrity, that he was placing agents in an impossible position, that continued pressure would destroy morale and weaken effectiveness. Reports then described Trump lashing out, accusing her of disloyalty, calling the agency deep state infected, and suggesting she should be removed and replaced with someone who would put the president's needs first. No resolution was reached, according to those accounts. Then, the weekend of January 18th and 19th became another turning point. Reports placed Trump at Mar-a-Lago, where sources say he met privately with former military and law enforcement figures in an informal advisory circle. Not government employees, but private citizens with access to him. And here's the part that has intensified the alarm. Sources indicate Trump discussed creating a private security force to supplement or even bypass the Secret Service. The idea, as described, was simple and dangerous. If the government team wouldn't do what Trump wanted, he could hire contractors who would. Funding would allegedly come through Trump-related business accounts or through donations from loyal supporters. Their purpose would be to protect Trump properties from seizure and create a layer of security Trump could control directly. When leadership inside the Secret Service allegedly learned about these talks, sources say it was the final breaking point. Because a president building a parallel security structure outside the normal chain of command is not just unusual. Analysts describe it as a major threat to accountability, legality, and democratic norms. It would signal that the president no longer trusts the official protective system. It would raise immediate questions about who has authority, who answers to whom, and what happens if private armed contractors collide with state law enforcement. So, according to reports, Tuesday morning, the acting director went to the Secretary of Homeland Security and said she was done. She could not remain in place while the president tried to undermine the agency and explore an outside private force. The resignation was reportedly accepted right away. By Tuesday afternoon, the news had leaked, and the shockwave began. Because this is not just about one agency. Reports suggest this conflict is spreading across multiple federal institutions. The FBI, according to sources, has been in a quiet standoff for months. Analysts point to reports that FBI Director Christopher Wray, originally appointed during Trump's first term, has had repeated clashes with Trump over demands to investigate political opponents. Sources indicate Trump has wanted investigations into New York figures involved in legal actions against him, arguing they are part of a coordinated attack on his property rights. But reports suggest Wray refused, saying the FBI cannot open cases based on personal anger. It requires evidence of federal crimes. And according to sources familiar with internal thinking, there has been no evidence presented that would justify FBI investigations into state officials executing court orders. Trump has reportedly threatened removal more than once, and reports suggest Wray has privately said he would rather resign than turn the FBI into a political weapon. The Justice Department, sources say, is also divided. Reports describe the Attorney General, a Trump appointee, walking a narrow path, trying to appear loyal while also guarding the department's independence. But sources indicate Trump has pushed for federal lawsuits designed to block New York's asset actions and to use the power of the DOJ as a shield against state enforcement. According to reports, the Attorney General has resisted. Narrow filings may have been approved, but sources say leadership refused to turn the DOJ into Trump's personal legal defense team. Career prosecutors, according to insiders, are furious. Some reportedly see these requests as corruption of the mission, and multiple senior officials are said to be preparing exit plans. Even Homeland Security, which oversees the Secret Service, is described as being in turmoil. The secretary is allegedly trapped. Appoint a loyalist and risk mass resignations. Appoint an independent professional and risk Trump viewing it as betrayal. Across the government, analysts believe a larger question is forming. Do career officials comply with orders they believe cross ethical and legal lines, or do they resist, resign, or leak? And according to sources, more and more are choosing resistance. Now let's talk about the practical danger of a Secret Service leadership crisis. The first issue is obvious: presidential safety. The Secret Service includes thousands of personnel, special agents and uniformed officers, and the unit directly guarding the president is made up of only a few hundred elite agents. These are highly trained professionals. But sources describe them right now as exhausted, stressed, and increasingly conflicted about the mission they are being asked to carry out. When leadership resigns, it's not just symbolic. It removes strategy and long-term planning expertise. Day-to-day protection may continue because protocols exist. But sources suggest coordination with other agencies, threat planning, and morale management suffer immediately. And if agent transfers begin to accelerate, replacing them is not easy. It takes months of background checks, training, and evaluation. You cannot simply fill gaps overnight. If even a small percentage of the president's protective team leaves, the coverage becomes thinner, risk goes up. And then comes the proposal that many experts say is the most dangerous of all: private contractors. Reports suggest Trump has floated the idea that he can hire private security to handle what the Secret Service will not. But private security is not the Secret Service. Contractors do not operate under the same legal structure. They do not carry the same federal authority. They cannot claim the same jurisdiction. And if a contractor physically blocks a sheriff executing a court order, the legal chaos could be immediate. They could be arrested. They could face charges. Lawsuits could explode in every direction. And it would be unclear in the moment who is truly in control. Then there is the loyalty issue. Federal agents swear an oath to the Constitution. Private contractors work for a paycheck. If Trump pays them personally, their loyalty is personal, not institutional. That creates a parallel power structure, outside government accountability, and analysts warn that is a hallmark of unstable political systems. Some intelligence and security observers are watching this with visible alarm. The concern, they argue, is not just property protection. It is what a privately loyal force could be used for: intimidation, disruption of legal proceedings, or controlled chaos that benefits a political goal. Some commentators have drawn historical comparisons to extremist paramilitary groups that enabled authoritarian movements. Those comparisons may be overstated, but the very fact they are being raised shows how nervous parts of the national security world have become. Another operational problem is coordination with local police. Normally, when the president travels, the Secret Service works hand in hand with state and local law enforcement. Routes are secured, venues are checked, emergency plans are built together. But if state and local officials begin to believe the Secret Service is being used to interfere with state law, cooperation could break down. And imagine the outcome. If the president visits a state where officials are hostile, and those officials believe the Secret Service is compromised, they could limit cooperation. That would reduce the protective envelope the president normally relies on. And that would make the entire system weaker. This is why the Secret Service has always guarded its reputation as professional and apolitical. If that trust cracks, rebuilding it is extremely difficult. Now, the legal and constitutional side of this story is where things enter truly uncertain ground. The Constitution gives the president broad authority over the executive branch and command over the military. But it does not give a president the right to build a personal armed structure outside the chain of command. A president cannot create a private military. A president cannot hire mercenaries to enforce personal interests. If Trump forms a private security force funded outside government money, major questions follow. Who do they report to? What authority do they claim? And who is responsible if rights are violated? If private guards block a sheriff carrying out a court order, legal experts say it could look like obstruction. Could Trump be held responsible? Would it be criminal after he leaves office? Could it be impeachable while he is still in office? Scholars disagree on the details, but many agree the risk is real. Reports suggest the House Judiciary Committee has at least discussed whether pressure on federal agents or use of private security to obstruct state action could trigger obstruction-related concerns. If lawmakers decide the president has tried to block lawful court orders, articles of impeachment could be considered. But impeachment takes time. And sources suggest Trump understands that. Analysts believe he may be betting on confusion, delay, and disorder. Then there is the risk to the contractors themselves. Private guards have no special immunity. If they obstruct law enforcement, they can be arrested, charged, and prosecuted. And if clashes occur, experts predict prosecutions would follow quickly. Then Trump, analysts believe, would argue the contractors acted under his presidential orders, forcing courts into a historic question. Can a president direct private citizens to break the law? Most legal experts say no, but even fighting over that question could take years. And the broader fear is bigger than Trump. If a president can build a private force to protect personal interests, what stops future presidents from doing the same? What stops a leader from building loyal teams that bypass the normal system? That is how democracies weaken. Leaders build structures that answer to them alone. The founders built checks and balances specifically to prevent that. And now, analysts say, those checks are being tested. Zooming out, many observers say this behavior signals something important about Trump's state of mind and the direction of his presidency. Even by Trump's standards, reports suggest this is not ordinary conduct. A leader who seeks a private force is not acting like someone confident. Analysts argue it looks like a leader who feels cornered, seeing enemies everywhere, distrusting institutions, demanding personal loyalty. Historians who study authoritarian patterns describe a familiar path. Legal pressure rises, trust collapses, loyalty tests begin, and parallel structures form. Sources and commentators argue Trump appears to be following that script. According to these reports, he distrusts the Secret Service because they won't do what he wants. He distrusts the FBI because they won't chase his political targets. He distrusts the Justice Department because it won't shield him completely. So he looks outside the system, private security, unofficial advisors, loyal media ecosystems that repeat his message no matter what. Analysts warn that this is the behavior of a leader in serious decline, and potentially the behavior of a leader who could become more dangerous. Because when a president stops trusting institutions and starts relying on personal loyalty alone, the risk of reckless or extreme decisions rises sharply. Trump has always pushed limits, but in the past, officials could slow him down. Guardrails existed. Now, sources suggest those guardrails are weaker. People who would say no have either left, resisted, or been attacked publicly. And in that vacuum, loyalists who tell him what he wants to hear may have more influence. In that environment, experts say many outcomes become possible. Trump could push private security into direct clashes with state law enforcement. He could attempt emergency declarations. He could escalate rhetoric to justify more extreme moves. He could test the system again and again. And the fact that his own protective detail may be resisting is, according to analysts, a warning sign. If even the people whose job is to stand beside him at all times are questioning orders, it suggests the situation has reached a late stage. So here is what to watch over the next week, because this story is moving fast and it could get worse. First, watch who Trump picks as the next acting Secret Service leader. If he installs a political loyalist with little or no agency experience, observers say that is a major red flag. If he picks a respected career professional, it may signal the institution still has strength. Second, watch for signs of mass transfers and resignations. If multiple agents leave the president's detail at once, that would suggest morale has collapsed. The agency may try to keep it quiet, but leaks tend to surface. Third, watch for private security appearing at Trump properties. If armed contractors show up wearing gear, uniforms, or identification tied to Trump, that would be the moment this moves from rumor to reality. Fourth, watch for any physical clash between private security and state law enforcement. If sheriffs try to enter and are blocked, the crisis becomes a law enforcement emergency. Arrests could happen. Court battles could begin immediately, and the chaos would spread. Fifth, watch for current or former agents speaking publicly. Secret Service professionals rarely talk. If they begin giving interviews or writing statements, it likely means they believe the threat is severe enough to risk their careers. Sixth, watch Congress. The House Oversight Committee has authority over the Secret Service. If hearings are announced, subpoenas issued, or investigations opened, it signals lawmakers believe this has crossed into a national emergency. Seventh, watch the world. Foreign intelligence services monitor presidential security closely. If they believe protection is weakened or coordination is breaking down, analysts warn they may see opportunity. Threat levels could change fast. Eighth, watch Trump's own words. If he attacks the Secret Service openly, praises private guards, or frames federal agencies as traitors, experts say he could be laying the groundwork for even more extreme actions. Because this is not only about one resignation or one disagreement. Sources and analysts argue this is a sign of a presidency under severe strain, where the people expected to protect the president may no longer trust the directions coming from the president himself. Trump built his image around loyalty. He demanded total loyalty from everyone, but loyalty works both ways. Institutions give loyalty when leaders respect the law and respect their oath. Reports suggest many officials believe Trump has demanded the opposite, asking people to risk their integrity and their careers to protect his personal interests. And now that bill may be coming due. If agents are stepping away, analysts say it's not betrayal, it's the opposite. It's loyalty to their oath, loyalty to the Constitution, loyalty to the idea that federal power cannot be turned into personal power. And the pattern appears broader across the government. Career professionals join to serve the country, not one man. When asked to serve one man, sources say more are refusing. That is the real crisis here, not just legal troubles, not just political drama, but a breakdown of trust, the kind of breakdown that makes governing nearly impossible. If reports are accurate, Trump is left with a shrinking circle of loyal supporters, the formal powers of the presidency, and the possibility of a private security network whose size and discipline remain unknown. And analysts warn, a leader with formal power, personal loyalty, and growing desperation is a leader who may take unpredictable steps. The next chapter will be written in the coming days. The Secret Service, based on these reports, has delivered a message. They will not become a president's personal army. They will not cross legal and ethical lines. They will not destroy their mission to protect someone's private interests. Now, the only question is Trump's response. Does he accept the limits and step back? Or does he escalate, bring in private security, challenge state law enforcement, and dare the system to stop him? Many analysts believe escalation is the more likely path, because if a private force truly forms and institutions truly resist, the collision is coming. So what happens next, and who blinks first?